Welcome to this Times Techies webinar. I'm Sujit John, and I will be moderating this discussion that we are having in partnership with Ford. Ford has the Ford Business Solutions arm in India, the global business solutions arm of Ford Motor Company. Today, we are going to discuss career growth and development in engineering. We are going to look at the current tech job landscape, the impact of evolving technologies and skilling requirements, the prospects for young engineers, the education and skill gaps, the role of networking and mentoring. As we have discussed on this platform before, lots of global companies are establishing technology and operation centers in India. This is an opportunity for engineers. A variety of skill requirements are emerging, not just in IT, but also traditional engineering disciplines. Technologies are also changing rapidly, so that's a challenge. To discuss all this, we have with us three seasoned professionals. We have with us Abhilasha Gaur. Abhilasha is the CEO of nasscom's IT and IT-ITeS Sector Skills Council. She recently moved to this role. Prior to this, Abhilasha was CEO of the Electronics Sector Skills Council of India. So she has a lot of experience in the skill development ecosystem across hardware, software, IT. nasscom's Sector Skills Council is a strong contributor to the skills needs of the IT sector in India. The council works closely with the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Ministry of Electronics and IT, National Council for Vocational Education and Training, and National Skill Development Corporation, NSDC. Over the years, the council has successfully skilled over 2.5 million professionals. Welcome, Abhilasha.
Thank you, Sujit.
We have Suresh Kandula. Suresh is CTO of Integrated Services and Director of Marketing and Sales Technology for Ford Motor Company. He's based in the US, and that's where he's talking to us from today. Suresh is responsible for a team of 2,000 people and leads one of the global technology functions that includes digital product development, global marketing and sales technologies for wholesale and retail channels, aftermarket sales and services, global retail e-commerce technologies, order fulfillment, and contact center platforms. He was in Sapient for many years before moving to Ford. Welcome, Suresh.
Thank you. Have a good morning, everyone, and good evening. Thanks, Sujit.
And we have Dhananjay Nair. Dhananjay is head of human resources at Ford Business Solutions India and is based in Chennai. Ford Business Solutions is, like I said earlier, is the global business solutions arm of Ford Motor Company and employs over 12,000 direct and agency employees in Chennai. Dhananjay has been with Ford for almost 20 years now, working across different countries in the region, including China and Thailand. He has handled assignments ranging from setting up operations, large-scale talent acquisition, learning and development, and operational HR. Welcome, Dhananjay.
Thank you, and all the best. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, I know, confusing. No, Suresh is morning for Suresh, and all of us are here in the middle of the afternoon here. Those who are viewing this can send in questions to the Facebook comment box. I will put them to Abhilasha, Suresh, and Dhananjay. Let me first, Suresh, why don't you set the context? I know you're sitting in the US, but give us an idea. I'm sure you're looking at India very, very closely. What's your reading of the current landscape of engineering opportunities in India?
So, Sujit, thanks for setting the context for this discussion. So I'll talk about like four main drivers. One is, as you mentioned, like kind of the global capability centers, and second is just India domestic market. And in number one, India has becoming like more of a strategic capability center. It is no longer, for the past 3-4 years, no longer how to maintain and manage services or even turnkey, but it's really about building new capabilities that are foundational. So in case of Ford Motor Company, for us, for example, we have a large team in Chennai that actually works on platforms that are core and foundational to Ford in terms of our e-commerce, in terms of our EV and hybrid technologies. So these GCCs that are growing, not only providing a lot of the support that are needed for in the past, but also like forward looking. So in the sense, the engineering skills that are required are not only about like, keeping the lights on, but really about building new capabilities, being more strategic in terms of how we think about solutions. And, as nasscom reported, like, the GCCs are growing, at double digits. We have around 3,000 GCCs in India. So GCCs are a big source in terms of inspiration for engineers, in terms of building modern technologies. So second, I would say, is in terms of India's domestic market itself. As you have seen pre-COVID, the startup economy has taken off in India, and India has its own source of challenges in terms of mobility, in terms of gig economy that may not be even present in outside of India. So the engineering talent required to build solutions for India in India are also increasing. And some of the newer technologies that we will discuss later during the session, whether it's data engineering, AI, and green energy, are also contributors to some of that. But really, what we are talking about in terms of themes and trends is how do we build engineering talent in India, whether it's for multinationals or for India, in terms of thought leadership, not just building solutions, but also looking forward.
Also for thought leadership, not just for building solutions. Dhananjay, I'll come to you, but before that, Abhilasha, give me, you have been on the electronic side, now you're on the IT side. Give us a sense of the kind of engineering demand that you are seeing and the changes that are happening there.
See, completely agreeing what Suresh said, that the GCC is coming to India. And if we talk about the tech industry, which is around $254 billion, and we expect that by end of next year, by 2025, it will be crossing around $350 billion. And definitely, and the one major shift which has happened in last 2-3 years, what we see in India in the tech space is that this demand is going to tier 2, tier 3 towns also. So it is not only the metros where we see this tech demand which is happening, and I think it's a very, very good thing. And if we talk about the supply side from India, so I think we're one of the largest across the world, around 2.5 million tech graduates which are coming out every year. And then we see how the tech industry is growing as in the Indian context also. So I think we do have a good balance between demand and supply. Only thing is some skilling gaps what we see, and we'll be talking it in our later conversation also, that how we'll be able to fill it up from the government as well as from the industry perspective also. So I think it's a good to go factor for India, and definitely we see a lot of good things happening in the coming years for the tech space.
Lots of opportunity, but there are some skilling gaps which need to be addressed. We'll get more into that a little later. Dhananjay, similar question to you. What kind of new hiring trends are you seeing for tech talent in India, and how are companies adapting their talent acquisition strategies in response to this?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, I think in the last 2-3 years, we've clearly seen a shift in the talent landscape, particularly from a tech talent landscape, largely driven by the global shifts in economy, technology changes, and particularly after the COVID, also because of the evolving workforce expectation. We saw some job cuts in the core tech sector in the last couple of years, but as Abhilasha and Suresh mentioned, those job losses in the tech sector has been more than compensated by growth in the GCC sector in the same period. So the hiring continues to be competitive. A lot of new and emerging and existing skills are getting hired. The ones that are emerging and growing the fastest, I would say, from a hiring perspective, is around cloud computing, AI, embedded software, and big data. So clearly, high attention to recruiting. But if you think from an operational perspective, companies do face a shortage of skill gap, as Abhilasha spoke about. We also see a decrease in average tenure of people staying in companies. We see increase in timelines for hiring. We see compensation inflation. Those are all things that's happening. Some of which might even come at the risk of impacting the key business deliverables. What is company doing from a hiring perspective? What are some of the things that companies doing? I think first of all, today we are at a scene where we see always on recruiting. Recruitment is always on. Whether you're mapping the market on demand and supply, whether you're networking with potential employees, whether you're fine-tuning your assessment process and your selection process. So I guess that's going to be always on. We are also seeing, and we are adopting more adoption of AI and data analytics too, basically to make the process more effective and efficient. That's the other thing that we're seeing increasingly. A lot of attention to the employee and the candidate experience at the start, providing the white glove experience and smoother integration into the company. Apart from the buy strategy, which is buying talent from the market, there is an integration to also the build strategy, which is really where the campus programs, partnership with institutions, early internship programs. I mean, these are all stuff companies are doing in order to get that talent and through these interventions. But at the end of the day, I mean, while we talk about hiring and there's a lot of attention to that, we have to recognize that what will really help the companies to really be in the game is by upping their game, really in the space of engagement, employee engagement, growth, and career opportunities and retention programs. So I guess while there is a short-term approach, there needs to be a longer-term strategy as well.
Longer-term strategy. But Ford also in your center, these are the broad areas where you are hiring. You mentioned cloud, AI, data, and all those.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. A big cloud transformation happening for you internally.
We are. In fact, we have been in this journey for the last now close to 2 years. Yeah, so that's been we've been hiring for the last 2 years, I would say.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, my colleague Akhil had some problems logging in. He's logging in from a place that he's not used to. So he's joined us. Akhil.
Yeah. Dr. Abhilasha, maybe you can help us understand what are the most significant skills you're seeing among
There's a problem with your line,
graduates
Akhil.
entering the workforce right now, and how can these students address these gaps? And what's nasscom doing? You can't hear me clearly?
Akhil, not very
You take
clear,
the
but
question,
yes, I
Suresh. I'll
got
fix
it.
my audio.
The question what you wanted to ask. So yes. So see, what we have done is we at nasscom, SSC nasscom, what we are doing is we take these technologies into two formats. One is the technology skills. Another is the professional skills, what the students require once they'll be joining. So when I'm talking about technology skills, so there are various verticals, which includes AI, generative AI, blockchain, cybersecurity. Then we have AR, VR, cloud computing, robotics, process automation, 3D printing, even semiconductors also. We group it with the various professional skills what the industries require in terms of product management, design thinking, digital leaderships, program management, and even in terms of problem solving and effective communication also. So we see there are some tech skills, there are some domain skills which are required for our students once they'll be joining the workforce, because from the industry perspective, they require somebody who can be, you can say once they'll be transitioning from college to the corporate. So if college can skill them on these professional as well as technology skills, it becomes easy for them. And for this, we identify that in the coming, these are some of the technologies in which we see a lot of demand which is coming up. Whereas there are some future and emerging technologies also, just like edge computing, where we see that a lot of market demand which is coming. Then in terms of connectivity, where we see a lot of 5G applications which are coming. Then there is a Gartner report which says that low code and no code, because of a lot of AI adoption by the industry, which says that they predict that by around 2026, that around 80% of the people will be in the low code or no code domain will be there. Then semiconductor, in the push from the Indian government side also for the semiconductors, where, and I'm sure you will be aware also, that 20% of the design part of semiconductors is done in India. Now we are seeing that how the fabrication and the ATMP or OSET units can be set in India. So we see a lot of upcoming demand in this sector also. Then we have Gen AI frameworks and various tools which are coming up. Quantum computing, which will be coming up and gaining a lot of traction in the coming days. And then green tech will be another area where we'll find a lot of traction will be there. So these are some of the fields where we know that a lot of employment opportunities will be coming. And that is how we are working with various academia partners as well as industries to come up with the courses. So with the Ministry of Electronics and IT, we from nasscom, we have a platform, which is a Future Skills Prime platform, where all these courses are already there. Some 500 courses are there with the industry partners, with academia academia partners. And these courses are, you can say, from 6 hours course to a 600 hours program, which are already available. And most of them are like subsidized or free of cost, or directly paid to the partner courses which are there. So I think a lot of things are happening, and SSC NASSCOM is playing a very key important role with I mean, onboarding various partners on these platforms and reaching to masses, you can say. So almost as Sujit also mentioned, that around 2.5 million people who have been trained on various IT-ITeS technologies. Then around, I mean, we have a program which is digital fluency, which is for a mouse outreach also. So, I mean, once a student completes the program, so a badge which is given to a candidate. So around 1.28 crore people who have got these digital fluency badges. Then we have some 2,000 academic institutions which are there, and around 160 plus corporates who are there. So the main philosophy is that we align academia and industry on a single platform, and we see that what are the gaps, and that's what I was talking to Sujit in initial conversation also, that once both of them, from the demand side and supply side on the same platform, it becomes easy for us to match the gaps also. And that is how SSC NASSCOM is taking these endeavors ahead.
So lots of new areas emerging, you're saying IoT, edge computing, 5G, quantum, semiconductors, low code, no code. I mean, so plenty of newer areas that engineers can look at. Suresh, I want to ask you, with the advent of AI, low code, no code platforms and AI-driven coding tools, how can engineers stay relevant, especially those who have built their career in more traditional roles? And AI-driven coding tools, increasingly we are hearing it's bringing some 15 to 50%, depends on who you ask, productivity improvements and all that. So big changes happening there.
Yeah. Sujit, I would say, like, before we talk about AI low code, I just want to set some base things like what Dr. Gaur mentioned. It is still as important as before in terms of your communication skills, because you still need to communicate with the AI low code platform. You still need to have the domain expertise, because you need to know what to ask, how to ask. My opinion in terms of the AI CoPilot tools changed in the last 6 months drastically. That actually tells you how fast this actually space is changing. What I was able to do 6 months ago, or what I was not able to do, I was frustrated. I could do it now much better. And it's only 6 months. So the pace at which the CoPilot tools are changing are mind-boggling. So having said that, having the right industry domain experience, having the right communication and the professional skills that Dr. Gaur talked about are increasingly important, if not similarly important. So I just want to set that aside. I don't want people to take away saying that, okay, we have this tool and I could build whatever I want. Second is, like, you could get to 80% of what you need to do with a lot of these tools, but the remaining 20% is your skill on how to actually get it into your ecosystem, how to get it working in production at scale, where millions of users are using the software platform. So there are some basic fundamentals that are needed. You still need to know what to ask the AI tools. You still need to be able to get the last 20% of the work done on your own without needing any help. And in future, I might change my opinion on the remaining 20% as well. But what Dr. Abhilasha mentioned, up until 2026, we still need a lot of these skills to be able to get to the other end of building something great. Second thing I would say is, I'll kind of break down your question, Sujit, like in terms of AI-driven CoPilot tools. And second is really kind of the relevancy of the engineers. So first is in terms of, the tooling, absolutely it is here to stay. It is a matter of, like, as you said, whether it's 10% efficiency, 15% efficiency, or 50% efficiency, individual organizations will figure out over the next couple of years. But they are here to stay, so you have to be on top of these tools. So I spend a lot of time. I ask my teams to spend a lot of time with these tools. So you have to understand how to use these tools in your job, in your day-to-day roles and responsibilities. And you have to teach your teams. So what I would say is, you have to be a leader, not a manager, in terms of being able to help your teams on how to use these tools. Second thing I would say is in terms of relevancy. As a software engineer, you need to be able to identify the right questions to ask. I have been spending a lot of time with these tools. So if you're building a website, if you're building a mobile app, you're building something a company needs that is on the back end, you still need to understand how to set up these tools, how to use these tools in your day-to-day job, and make sure that it is not producing errors, because you can't blindly take what it produces and use. So there is still a lot of relevancy in what you currently know and what you need to learn. So for the next couple of years, you still need to be on top of your skills in terms of how to build it. So over time, you could leave a lot of these things to AI to build. So that's number one. In terms of the skills, so if you look at AI, which is slightly different than CoPilot and low-code tools, because the way the industry calls low-code and AI-based CoPilot tools are the first killer app of AI. It is not the only app that is going to be produced. So once you get that out of the way, the remaining part of the AI, ability to use it in your marketing functions, ability to use it in your accounting functions, ability to use outside of software engineering, is going to be key. So it is not only CoPilot, which is, as I said, like the first killer app. There are many other killer apps that will come from AI. So you have to understand how to use machine learning, generative AI tools outside of your coding and software engineering practice. Let's say it is as simple as fine-tuning your email, so that you are effectively communicating to your partners and managers, or you're working on a website that are building the content for the website. Nothing to do with software. So AI will be much more broader than just low-code platforms. And as software engineers, as professionals, we need to really understand it is like learning Microsoft Office, let's say. You have to be as familiar with that going forward, in terms of using these tools. And the last thing I would say is traditional roles and relevancy. If the efficiency is 50%, let's say, for discussion's sake, like you mentioned, then you don't need that many software engineers to do the same amount of work. Then the question is, are you going to have less number of people, or are you going to do more work? One of them have to be true. So in that sense, you have to be much more relevant in terms of domain. You have to be much more relevant in terms of subject matter expert. And as a software engineer, you need to have your brand so that people are hiring you. Because if somebody's producing something, twice as fast, they would argue that they only need half as many people. So in terms of the flux of the demand, and like what Gaur mentioned, matching supply and demand, it's more and more relevant for the next 5-6 years in terms of having these skills.
How easy is it to learn these tools, Suresh? Is it as easy as Excel and all that when we were started off with Excel and stuff, or does it take? How long do your engineers take to learn a CoPilot and things like that, how to use it effectively?
So that's a great question. So 6-7 months ago, I would have given you a different answer than last week, for example. Compared to CoPilot, there are a lot more specialized tools like other CoPilots. Like Cursor would be one example where it is very advanced compared to the previous generation CoPilots. In terms of learning and using the tool, it will probably take, let's say 3-4 weeks to build let's say a professional looking application, whether you're building web applications or mobile applications, where it will take the remaining 20% of the time. It is like one of those things where you will understand 80% of the content in 20% of the time. The remaining time is really how to fine tune to your needs, how to fine tune the questions so that it's actually producing the code that you exactly need for your organization, because every organization is built different. So 80% of the work that it does, you will understand in several weeks, let's say in weeks, not months, but really fine tuning on how you actually want to use it. The CoPilot learning more about your code and how you operate will take, let's say 3-4 months after that to be able to have that kind of symbiotic relationship with the CoPilot.
Yeah, we are also experimenting internally with something called Beans. I think it's Beans is trying to learn how TOI writes and all that. So
Yeah.
I think it will take some time.
The future is really, you'll have whole swats of groups are really like, replaced by these tools. Like, for example, data engineering is one of the areas where some of the startups are venturing into identifying and telling companies that, like, we'll take this entire set of data engineering roles, and then we will basically run it using AI tools. So instead of you needing a team of 20 data engineers for your task, we'll only need, let's say, 4 data engineers plus AI tools. So you're taking like a small sub department of data engineering and then really mixing with AI and your data engineers who actually know the domain, who actually are subject matter experts and can coexist with CoPilot to deliver what you need.
Okay. Akhil?
Dhananjay, do you want to help us understand a little bit more about these AI tools? Like Sujit said, is it as easy to use in like Excel was in the 90s?
You're muted, Dhananjay.
Yeah, so I do feel that AI tools take some learning. So that's been our experience. Particularly, I'm now talking about as a user of AI, and it does take learning. But adopting it and making it work for us is something that probably is the defining opportunity that we have. We are experimenting in AI in our recruiting, our onboarding, and some of our employee experience areas. But I would say that we have some more way to go before we are able to get to that place. But the democratization of AI is already happening. I mean, it's now becoming, irrespective of what your job is, you would have to build your expertise on that. That's really what we are seeing across whatever job you do. That's becoming more and more relevant.
The way Suresh described it, prompting seems to be
Yeah,
the
nudging
most crucial,
yeah,
right? And that's something that you have to learn.
yes.
Abhilasha, I want to ask you, and maybe Dhananjay can also pitch into this. We keep hearing a lot of people say continuous education and upskilling is becoming important. You just can't stay. I mean, what you learned earlier may not be very relevant any longer. So, how important is continuous education, upskilling in the industry, and lateral talent in particular? I mean, how difficult is it normally for them to stay updated on skills? Do companies have to really push them, or are they automatically? How are Indians generally on this?
So yes, for continuous learning at the time of G20, there were a lot of, deliberations happened, and they said lifelong learning should be the concept which everyone should follow. And definitely, it is not only once you transition from a college to a corporate that your learning stops there, but the way specifically the tech industry is moving, and not only tech but non-IT also, I'll include in that. The way the things are moving, yes, one has to be a lifelong learner. You cannot say, okay, I've completed my education and I'm out of my college. Now I don't want to update myself. Then in that case, you will become redundant. The way the technologies are changing for sure. So a lot of, initiatives from the corporate side also, from various companies that they do have L&D department where the employees keep on learning new things. Even for non-tech sector also, there's something called, we have a DAF, Digital Education and Digital Fluency 101, where we say that it's a small course of, let's say, 30 hours. And we say that even a school teacher or somebody working in a healthcare or a logistic or a pharmacy, so everybody has to get those skilling, because they'll be requiring it in different domains where they'll be working. So if I'll give you a small example for a hospital, let's say. So for us, hospital is a healthcare institution where you'll be requiring a lot of healthcare workers, doctors and others. But just imagine once you enter a ICU or their OT, so how many electronic equipments you see there? All the machines which are there. So definitely a lot of technicians who are required for operating those machines, and then later on servicing and other calibration is a very, very important area where a lot of job opportunities are coming in the health tech sector also. So medical equipments where the electronics as well as IT it plays a very, very important role. Then we talk about the lot of data through telemedics, what we are getting to the doctors. So even we say that if you are a doctor, then data analytics and data mining is one thing, and how to read that data becomes a very, very important. It's not only the medicine knowledge what you need to have. Some very interesting programs have been launched under this. I tell you, IIT Jodhpur and AIMS at Jodhpur, they both have collaborated. And a MBBS student and an engineering student, they are collaborating on various projects. And some very wonderful results when I went there and met the candidates. So something interesting, like they say that for a diabetic person, you have to prick, and then you have, I mean, by taking some drops of blood, you will be knowing that what is the sugar level. They say even with sweat and other things also it is possible. So the pricking is not necessary. So same way how medical and engineering or technology, the combination which is happening, I think it is very, very interesting. And that is what we see in various other fields also. Just to add one more example, let it be a automobile industry where we see a lot of earlier mechanical engineers were going, but now the after industry 4.0, the way the automation has happened in the industries, so there also you require the technical people there to operate those things. Even in construction also, for building management, you see a lot of IoT sensors are being used, let it be at the time of lighting or heating, ventilation, and air conditioning also. So I think tech is something which will cut across all the sectors. So if somebody is there, let me give you an example from the electronics also. So we have various electricians who, I mean, specialized into consumer electronics for, let's say, for TV, LED, refrigerator, washing machines, now dishwasher also. So the kind of refrigerators and LED we used to have 10 years back, and now we have so many with the sensors and IoT. So they also have to upskill themselves. So it's not the same electronic product which were there few years back. So that is the way I say that lifelong learning becomes a very, very important thing. And when somebody says that what is one skill which everybody should have to excel in their fields, so I tell them that learning and relearning is one skill which I mean, you can say the mantra for taking you ahead in any of your careers. So yes, lifelong learning is very, very important for anybody, let it be at any level, and let it be at, I mean, whichever phase of career you are in, but that should be a continuous thing for sure.
Abhilasha, isn't it also true that these AI systems will help us learn much better now? They'll make that entire process
Yes,
easier.
the human intelligence will definitely make the artificial intelligence work and will make the work more easier.
Dhananjay, you want to add to that?
No, nothing.
On this whole continuous lifelong learning that Abhilasha was talking about, I mean, your lateral guys and all, how willing and ready are they to upskill, learn new things?
Oh, if you are in the tech sector or a data or software sector, I mean, there is absolutely no other option, right? Learning agility, that's what Abhilasha was talking about in terms of not just learning, unlearning and relearning, but also doing it on the fly and adapting, right? I mean, these are stuff that is absolutely crucial for people who are in these sectors. So I guess, yeah, it is not just lifelong, but it is, how agile are you incorporating those learning into your way of work is extremely critical.
You have a lot of internal skilling programs and all that, is it?
Yeah, we do have, I mean, so the way we work is organization, uh, not just we, I'm saying any place, organizations have a responsibility to provide learning platforms, ecosystems, and so on. People leaders have responsibilities to make sure that there is engagement and dialogue and mentoring, all of that happening for people to, not just in terms of their career progressing and the performance progressing, but also their development, so that there is a role. But at the end of the day, it's the employee who is responsible for their own development. So I think the primary responsibilities, we do think that has to lie there. In terms of what the company is doing, I think multiple things. One, we are, as I said earlier, we are looking at building integrating both our build and buy strategy for capability building. Lot of efforts happening through support our internal upskilling efforts. Lot of it through either learning platforms like Oracle Learning or Coursera or Udemy's, self-certifications, self-paced learning for leadership, on-the-job exposure, cross-functional training. We spoke about democratizing AI. So we have created our internally developed AI platform. We call it as Mac 1 ML. So that's something which those ecosystems are all there, and increasingly we are seeing higher and higher adoption by employees, not just in tech, but definitely not in tech as well. So yes.
Okay.
Suresh,
Yes.
maybe you can help us understand AI. This AI revolution is a disruption like we've never seen before. So, what exactly are the tech skills or capabilities you think engineers should prioritize to remain competitive in the next 3 to 5 years? Is it a combination of prompting and domain expertise? Is that what it is?
So, so let me just talk about learning a little bit, and then I'll tie back to your question.
Okay.
So, the way we professionals are learning these days is changing. Like, so if someone is already on the job, we have so many opportunities in terms of learning. Whether it's massive online learning platforms like Coursera, as an example that Dhananjay mentioned, there are tremendous amount of blogs that are available for someone to actually learn, new technologies, or just the amount of free courseware that is available on YouTube, for example. So the learning
NASCOM has
information
something
is
called
everywhere.
Future Skills Prime. You have
Yeah,
a huge platform
Coursera
for-
is one of our partners, Sujit.
Oh,
And
Coursera is one of your partners for this, is it?
yes,
They have a
so
platform
we
called
are, yes, and we are aligning their, I'll talk about it after Suresh, that how we are aligning their offerings to the National Skill Qualification Framework for India also.
Okay.
So the issue is not so much about whether you have information available to learn or not. The second thing I would say is, like, you are learning, but are you applying? Like, learning is one thing, but being able to apply in the right context at the right time in the right way. So that is where the next set of skills. So if you just learn and you don't know how to apply it in your real world scenarios, it is of no use, or you might actually cause some damage if you apply it in a wrong sense. So application comes from experience. So if you have been an industry expert, a domain expert, you learn something, but you need to be able to apply, and you need to be able to help your teams apply the same things. So it is as much as learning, as much as communication and explanations on why you are choosing that particular technology with the teams. The other thing I would add is, like, to what Dhananjay mentioned, it's not only the learning, but also like networking. Like, at FBS India, Chennai, we have a lot of learning events where outsiders will come in. Like, we have events like Fibonacci, we have events like meetups that we conduct at Ford with Ford employees and other companies coming into our campus, talking about various different learning opportunities. So we do see a lot of young engineering talent show up for those events in Chennai. So there are multiple avenues to learn. It's really about applying what you learn is critical. And coming back to your question, Akhil, on in terms of, like, what is it that you are learning and how you are learning AI. So first thing I would say is, like, in a tech industry, or specifically software industry, it's really the CoPilot tools. That's one thing. Second thing is, like, as Abhilasha mentioned, in automotive sector, for example, the vehicles are becoming increasingly smart. These are all connected vehicles. You used IoT and edge as an example, Sujit. So now, the fact that these vehicles are connected and spewing out a lot of data, knowing how to apply, green technologies, whether it's EV charging, whether it's mobility, the areas where in India, for example, a gig economy and mobility are big areas of growth. It also improves the efficiency of the vehicles. You also need to understand how some of these data sets can be used in AI. Like, for example, fleet management is an example where in India, you can apply a lot of green technologies to fleet management. So learning AI as a co-pilot is one thing. Like, we need to actually build AI tools, not just use AI tools. So whether it's supply chain, logistics, and optimization, where we spend a lot of time at Ford and also with FBS in Chennai, in terms of applying AI to business domains, not just coding. So in terms of learning of those skills, you actually need to be a data engineer or an AI engineer or an LLM or a generative AI specialist to be able to apply those knowledge, whether it's prompting or even more advanced development in using generative AI models to apply to your business domain. So that is a different set of skill, not prompting, but really building or customizing your generative AI models to actually build a business outcome, not just build a solution. So those skills are really where a lot of gap is there, not because like there was gap that was inherently built up, but these technologies are changing really fast and at a pace that we have not seen before. So in that sense, the skill gap on building AI tools versus using AI tools are two different skills. And one requires a lot more software engineering expertise, a lot more data engineering expertise. And the other one is really prompting and leveraging those tools. So both are, equally important, the first killer app being just a CoPilot, but really there is a lot more to come.
No, it's interesting. You mentioned green tech a few times. That seems to be another domain that will probably impact almost every sector in industry, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, when we say green, I mean, there are a lot of different meanings to that depending on which industry you are coming from. So if I just take automotive as an example, because we are close to that. So as a consumer, if someone says green, that usually means like EVs and hybrids. But it's much more than that. As a corporation or as B2B or as an economy, green means like solar. Green means like alternative energy. Green means how to leverage the data that is coming from EVs and hybrids to make better decisions about your fleet, about your mobility decisions, about your fleet management, as an example, where we spend a lot of time and efforts on. So it's a combination of all of these things, like at least in automotive that is green. But obviously, like EVs and hybrids are more newer vehicles because those are the kind of vehicles that are coming up more. So obviously they'll have more technology compared to ICE vehicles because they were built some time ago. So it's really the green in the context of EVs and hybrid, but it's really about like energy. In terms of how do we build solutions, like charging is a big issue now that you have more and more EVs. So how do you actually connect the vehicle's state of charge to charging that is available with mapping and other technologies? Or solar, how do we combine with like your electric grid and how EVs operate? So it's a combination of multiple sources. Like the value chain is much broader than just vehicles.
Abhilasha wanted to add to that point about, and you could probably also address what Suresh was talking about applying. And of course, you have this platform, Future Skills Prime and all that, lots of courses available. Does it also help them in applying those skills that they learn to creating solutions and all of that?
Yes, I mean, recently we launched a specific program for this, what Suresh was also saying, that learning and applying. So this program is basically for the candidates who are pursuing their undergrad, and this is called EPBL. So EPBL is experiential project-based learning. And this is normally, you're aware that around 2 months or 6 months of internship training, a lot of the tech engineering students in almost all the streams, they go to the industries. So in this, what we have done, we asked the industries to give a problem statement for this, that on which problem statements they want these candidates to work upon. And so it becomes like more like a project. And then with the help of the mentors, which are the subject matter experts from industry as well as for academia, pitch in for these projects. And a learning happened. And later on, once the project is ready, presentation is given to the industries. So it is like, that's what earlier also I said, that bringing the industry and academia together and solving the business problems with them. And that is how whatever they have learned in their 2 years, 4 years of degree program, they'll be able to apply those things also. Also, what we have done is we have made it a credit program. So just to give you a background, that earlier you are aware that the school education system, then IT-ITeS diploma, AICTE, UGC. So there are various stakeholders in the Indian education system. So I'm really happy to tell you that around 2 years back, everybody came together and in same sync, a national credit framework was launched in India, where all the stakeholders, they agreed that the Indian education system can be divided from level 1 to level 8. So level 1 is for the people who can read, write, and class 5 pass. So level 2 programs will be for class 8 student, level 3 for class 10th, level 4 is for class 12th, and point 5 is being added for your UG, let it be 3-year or a 4-year program. So level 6, postgrad becomes level 7, and then PhD or research becomes level 8. So everybody agrees to this, and a credit under this credit framework, the credit transfer has also started happening. So there is something called ABC, that is Academic Bank of Credit. So if you have done a program and under National Education Policy 2020, which was already rolled out in India, which allows that if you were doing a graduation and you have completed 1 year or 2 year, and a few years back if you left, then you don't get anything out of it. But if you are completing 1 year, you get a diploma. If you complete 2 year, you get an advanced diploma. If you complete 3 years, you get a degree also in that case. So multiple entry and exit systems are there, which definitely help a lot of students to come back to the formal education system. And not only this national credit framework, but there is something called APAR ID. So APAR ID is just like your Aadhaar ID, which is a unique identification number. So APAR is your automated permanent academic account registry. So in which a student can accumulate and store their academic accomplishments and facilitate seamless transition between different institutions in pursuit of further education. And in APAR ID, all your academic or co-curricular activities, the credits will be saved in that. So what happens these days when we were talking about lifelong learning and applying also, so it was only in your DigiLocker, your class 10th, 12th, UG, PG mark sheets were going. But now if you're doing any program, let's say from Coursera or Future Skills Prime or any other platform, and you keep on adding various certification, and sometimes you feel shy that how much to put in a CV. What to write and what to hide. In that case, wherever a lot of people are doing, even post-COVID, this trend has started that people want to go for a smaller courses to upskill themselves. So this APAR ID, in few years, you'll see it will capture all your accomplishments there. And once you are applying from a school to a higher education and higher education to a corporate, so that APAR ID, if you'll give a 12-digit unique ID, the employer or the higher education institution will get a complete record, a 360-degree view of all your accomplishments. So there are a lot of things which are happening. And as far as Future Skills Prime is concerned, yes, almost 500 plus courses which are there, and around more than 60% have been aligned to this national credit framework also. So and what we are doing is we are asking institutions to embed these programs in their curriculum. So for example, a program in mechatronics or cloud computing, or let's talk about drones in that case. So a student who is pursuing a BTech, so in year 2 or 3, with their compulsory programs, so some value add programs and some of the specialization programs can be added. So once a student will be coming out, so he'll have a fair knowledge about, let it be mechatronics or drone or building management systems. So that is how this embedding thing will help them in learning and then applying also. So that is how we are trying to embed it in the regular traditional education system also through FSP.
APAR ID is not live yet, is it?
APAR ID is live. It has already started in schools. So a parent has to, in the new enrollments which are happening in school, so they have already started. This is under the scheme which is One Nation, One Student ID. So this was through Ministry of Education, this initiative has been taken.
Okay.
So they say that 34 crore APAR ID already registered.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's what their website says, the government website.
Okay.
Yes.
Dhananjay, help us understand, as a CHRO, what's your understanding of the biggest challenges facing engineers in the workplace today? What can organizations, employees do to address these challenges and boost growth?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about challenge, in a recent World Economic Forum report, it said that by 2027, 6 out of 10 current workers will need some form of training before 2027. But the challenge really is that only half of them would have those training opportunities available today. So for me, that's really how I look at it in terms of in a very macro picture. From an employee perspective, I think the impact of AI and all the other things that we spoke about just now, what it means to an employee is that we all need to strive to move up to the primary value chain of the company that we are going to be in, right? Whichever organization we are in, we have to be as close as possible to the primary value chain of that business, because that's where the value getting added represents a shift from an efficiency driven work to an innovation driven work. So I think we need to see whether the work that we're doing today, the skills that I have today, is that impacting the value stream, the value chain of the company. Obviously, for this, we spoke about the value of continuous skilling and building the tech and business acumen. Those are all clearly necessary for everyone. But given the disruption that's happening in IT and data sectors, I think those workforce are probably even more imperative right now. As I said, we spoke about the upskilling, the need for the partnership between the company, the people leader, and the employee, but with the primary responsibility with the employee clearly there. So yes, I think there has to be a multi-pronged approach to this. And at the end of the day, it's really the partnership between the employee and the people leader. The way we work in Ford is that partnership is such a crucial way of not just managing performance, but also managing development planning. So I think that's really where those check-ins with your people leader becomes important, and how the people leader supports employees to navigating through these ambiguities is becoming an important criteria as well. So I guess that's why we give primacy to that relationship and that check-in associated with the people leader and the employee on an ongoing basis.
Maybe you can also add something, Dhananjay, about diversity. I mean, DEI, of course, is a big topic of conversation everywhere now. So what are the challenges that you've seen? What kind of progress are companies generally making? How much progress have you made in Ford, FBS?
Yeah, so yeah, diversity is in India, particularly in the tech industry, we are seeing a lot of importance given to diversity and practices around DEI. And obviously a big focus is on the gender diversity, but we do pay attention to all kinds of diversity in our company. But the way we look at diversity is that inclusion comes first. You work on inclusion, your focus is on inclusion and respect, and the diversity will follow. And that basically is how we look at it. We pay attention to what we need to do to make the place as inclusive as possible. Here again, the people leader plays a pretty important role because he has to create the environment, the safe environment in his team. He has to be the principal ally for diversity. He has to hire the best talent irrespective of their background. So all of those becomes critical enablers for us to happen. And as I said, the role of that people leader becomes important. The other important role, of course, would be of our employee resources groups, or ERGs as we call them. And again, from a Ford perspective, we believe that when it comes to ERGs, everybody is included. Everyone is included. They play a pretty important role in driving our Ford culture. They also drive a lot of support in learning and development opportunities, mentoring to their constituents and to the employees, and also support the business. So we do think that this is a primary enabler for our organization, build on the foundation of inclusion. That's really what we're focusing on.
So when you say inclusion, what is? I mean, you said people leaders are important there, but I mean, what should they do? I mean, what is the?
So when we talk about inclusion, first thing is respect, right? You have to respect. You have to provide a safe environment for people to not just be part of the team, but also to voice out, to have their voice heard and listened to. You also need to ensure that the place that is there is is transparent when it comes to some of these practices. That's the factor that we bring in, and also the fact that this is a place where the employee can bring their whole self. That's the at the end of the day, that's the way we mark our aspect of inclusion for us.
Dhananjay, there's this question from PS Krish asking, for a fresher who's looking to join companies like Ford in India, what skills are required? How can we apply to roles at Ford? Okay.
Oh, okay. So one unique thing about Ford, what particularly FBS in India, I would say is that we cater to all functions and all domains of Ford. While the focus of this conversation has been on tech, and I don't know Krish's background, but we support centers of excellence across all domains. Whether you're a finance professional, you're an accounting professional, you are a supply chain professional, you are an HR professional, engineering professional, manufacturing. I mean, you name it. We have it's one of the few facilities Ford have where you have all these functions sitting in one center. That's actually an advantage that we have. That also helps in cross-functional collaborations much more easier than any other similar location that you would have in other companies. So yes, that's the advantage. So yeah, depending upon your skill sets, we do have. If you're a fresher, we do have campus programs. So we do take people through campuses, and then we also do lateral hiring. So depending upon your background, those are opportunities that are available. But as I said, it's the bouquet of skills that we had, I would say, cuts across all domains.
Okay. We normally have a lot of young audience listening to us and reading us and all that. Now we are almost out of time, a few more minutes. I mean, question to all three of you. What is your advice to youngsters in India today who are looking to join a tech career? I mean, not just a tech career, and as Dhananjay said, you have a lot of roles coming up. And the news in the Indian media about that Ford might even come back with its cars. I'm sure you can't talk about that, but tell us, I mean, the kind of what should these youngsters focus on? Your closing remarks on advice to them. Suresh, you want to start off?
Yep. So for someone who is early in their career in software engineering, for example, or mechatronics, really focus on fundamentals. Like you are going to learn in school the fundamentals of computer science, fundamentals of computer engineering. Those are as relevant as before. So it is not like AI is going to take over the world and do some things on their own anytime soon. So I would say you focus on fundamentals, you focus on what really makes a computer science student in terms of algorithms, building programming language skills. As a fresher coming in, that's equally important. The other thing I would say
is math important? Is math important?
So if you are coming, so for example, coming into Ford, if you are working in supply chain, even though you're in tech, you might be working in supply chain. You might be working in e-commerce. You might be working in invoicing. So all of them require math in a different sense. In supply chain, you have a lot of optimization algorithms, so math is important. If you are in e-commerce, it's important in a different sense in terms of like ability to run computations at high scale. So math, that's why I said fundamentals are always important, and they're ever more important than before. The second thing I would say is, really establish your own expertise. Like even though you're early in your career, you find your niche, you find what makes you you. And then you focus on. You might be you might want to be the best front-end engineer. You might want to be the best back-end engineer. You might want to be the best data engineer. So focus on your brand and how do you start building that brand over time.
So being a specialist as opposed to a jack of all trades, that's your advice?
Yep.
Dhananjay?
Yeah, I was thinking about it this morning. Obviously we are in a cusp of another revolution, as I see it, as far as the future of work is concerned. it's actually not very coincidental that the Nobel Prize that was announced yesterday for physics has gone to the the godfathers of AI. That's the kind of impact that we will have on our work technology. Not just what work we will do, as we spoke earlier, but also how we are going to do it, right? So from that, I think to be successful in all of this, I think apart from what Suresh spoke about, the domain expertise, I do feel that working on our cognitive skills, collaboration skills, and learning agility, which we spoke about earlier, is going to be critical. Always on learning, again, lifelong learning, as Abhilasha mentioned earlier, is going to be again critical to not only stay competitive, but also stay relevant in many cases. And it doesn't matter what's your work, whether you're fresh into a company or you have been working for a long time. So it's going to be critical for all of us.
Abhilasha?
I'll say that my word of advice will be that keep learning and keep tinkering. It does not matter that you are from a technology, you want to join a tech sector or a non-tech sector, but still you need to have a basic fair idea if somebody is talking about blockchain, IoT, cloud, cyber. It does not matter that you are a liberal graduate also, you're doing something in humanities, because at some point of time in your career, once you'll be joining the industry, these things will be coming back to you. And you cannot say, sorry, boss, I'm not aware what is this, because I've not done my engineering, or I'm not from a science background. So that thing is, they have to keep tinkering their mind. And I say that from Indian government, there is something we call it Skill India. And I'll say that Skill India is good, but we have to name it Will India. Until and unless a candidate has a will to learn, the Skill India will not work. So definitely that will has to come. That's why I say that keep learning and keep tinkering about the various things. Where you see that where you'll be making your career ahead. And as we all know, that India has the demographic dividend, and in few years you'll see that every fourth or fifth person who will be getting job in the world, they'll be Indians. So there is no dearth of job. So only thing is you have to prepare yourself for those jobs, and don't just rely on your school or your academia, but there are a lot of things. That's why the Will India comes into a play. There are a lot of things which you need to do yourself also to become more, you can increase your employability quotient. That's all. So that's the message from my side.
Wonderful. That's true. Lots of opportunities, but you need to keep learning, keep tinkering, get your fundamentals absolutely right, and specialize something that you really like, do it really well. And as Dhananjay was saying, also your soft skills, some of your collaboration skills, your communication skills, your critical thinking, creativity. Those are also equally important. So thank you so much, Abhilasha, Suresh, Dhananjay, really nice having you on this platform. Great discussion. These are the kind of things that India today needs. A lot of jobs coming to India, but we need to ensure that those skills are all there. We have a lot of skills, but yes, continually we need to build those further. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sujeet, and thank you, Akhil.
Bye.